Hi, FlossTube. My name is Grace. I'm the Paisley Stitcher here on YouTube as well as Instagram. And I want to welcome you to FlossTube number 12. And this is FlossTuber for a day. And I am thrilled. Today we have Sharon Moore Hall with me. And Sharon, you can find her on Instagram under Thread Empress as well as Miss Crescent's Crown. Welcome, Sharon.
Hi, Grace.
Hi, how are
Thanks for
you?
having me.
I am thrilled that you're here. I'm so excited that you said yes. I'm always so appreciative when people say, yes, I'll do FlossTuber for a day.
Sure. No
Um,
problem.
I always like to start with how we met. And I think we met,
How many years ago was that?
yeah, I
I think it was a summer school
think it was a
because I
summer
think we've
school.
been to a couple Bristols together. So it must have been summer school of like 21 or 22, maybe.
Yeah,
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 something like that.
yeah.
I know it was at the attic,
Right,
at an attic event. Hmm.
right. Yeah, we met and we ended up, a bunch of us went out for Mexican food. And
Oh, do
you
you
would
remember that place with the long booth? And I was
the
like, when you sat in the middle, it kind of sunk down.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Good.
It was,
Yeah.
but you were sitting next to me,
Hmm.
and we started talking about Crescent Colors, which we'll get to in a minute. And I remember thinking, people need to hear this
Yeah.
amazing story. So we'll circle back to that. But I want to know how did you start stitching, or
Well,
when or why?
my mom was a beautiful seamstress, would make her own patterns, didn't need a pattern from the store. She'd go to the store, look at the little dress, come home, cut it out, sew it, and that was my clothes. Most of my clothing until I was in grade school were homemade by her, and they were beautiful. And she also did I this is going to age me here, but denim shirts that had all the little embroidered
Oh yeah,
motifs and things on them. So she got us denim shirts, and it was so cool because I was on the tennis team, I was a pom pom, all these things in high school, and she embroidered them all over this shirt. And she taught me how to do it. Of course, I never, you know what I mean. I did a few in the little hoop on the thing, but then never really did anything. I took so the seventh grade. I got sewing classes. Seventh grade, my sister got sewing classes, and never really did anything with that. In high school, one of our home ec projects was a patchwork quilt, and but when I was about 22 maybe, and I had just gotten married, and I was moving to San Diego, and
I didn't know you
the
lived in San Diego. Did I know that? I don't
you
think
didn't
I
know that? Maybe
don't think
Karen knows that. I don't know.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, he was in the Navy, and we
Oh,
moved and lived in Pacific Beach for 5 years.
wow.
Yeah, yep, yeah. So anyway, my sister said, "Oh, look at this thing that I'm doing. It's really fun." Okay. And it was this white fabric with these squares on it and embroidery floss and a pattern. And my first pattern was the two geese with the blue checkered background. And I'm like, well, that's really cute because we were way into the geese. And I stitched it and I really enjoyed it. So then, I'm in San Diego. So there was Lee Ward's and Ben Franklin and things like that. And
I loved
there were
Lee
no needle
Ward's.
workshops. I
No,
loved Lee Ward's because they had everything.
they did.
And so I got, more projects, and, I probably stitched for about, I don't know, 7 years, 7, 8 years, like maybe right after Megan was born, at the end of '89. And of course I stitched the teddy bears and all their different outfits and all that, a couple baby samplers, that kind of thing. And uh put it down. The life, I had a toddler, I was
Yeah.
working, and I just didn't have time. And then fast forward. Wasn't very long after that. Fast forward about 4 years. I was in college. I went back to get my degree. I was in college, and I remember how soothing cross stitch was. And
Yeah.
I was a biochemistry, microbiology dual major.
You
And
were?
yeah,
I didn't. Oh my God. I didn't know that. Okay.
I was going to medical school.
You were.
It didn't work out. Not by any fault of mine, but it didn't work out. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so anyway, I was so stressed out with school. I'm a single mom. I've got this little toddler going around. I'm trying to study and everything. And I'm like, what was really comforting was cross stitching. It was so
Yeah.
logical to me. And so there's a store in Tucson called The West. It's a nonprofit shop that sells gift wear, and the other side is a needlework shop. And so I went in there and I'm thinking I'm going to find another teddy bear to stitch. And I went in there and I'm like, oh my gosh, there were designers named Lizzie Kate and Heart and Hand and Bent Creek. And they were this total primitive, whimsical style. And I was like, oh, I'm in love. So I picked up a couple patterns and yeah, I would sit there while I was waiting for class. There would be like an hour between a class. I'd be sitting there on the ground, cross-legged, doing my little projects, little angels, those weave patterns that Cecilia from Heart and Hand had. But and I I put it back down, but about, I don't know, probably, I would say in the last 20 years, it's been steady,
Yeah.
especially once I had Crescent Colors and once I was designing and once I was collaborating with other designers, then there was a lot of stitching.
Oh, I
So
bet.
yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
from my sister she's 4 years younger than me. So yeah,
Is
she
she
figured
still
it out before I did.
is she
Yeah.
still stitching?
No, no.
No. No.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
I know there's definitely something about stitching and it feeling meditative. And for
Yeah,
me too, it's calming. And maybe it's because that's all I'm focusing on at that moment. All the other chatter in my head is out.
right,
Is
right.
that how you
And
feel?
you know, yeah, if I'm in that situation, even at a retreat, if I just sit there, people are at the table, chat, 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 or behind me, chat, chat, chat. I can sit there and stitch. It's just kind of, but I know I'm with my people. Nobody's going to be like, oh, what is that? Da, 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 da. I can just sit there and stitch, just like I did last Saturday with you. I sat there and I made that whole M. So,
I
I
love
mean,
it.
it wasn't
I have
huge,
to
and
tell
you guys will see it. It's not huge, but that was a
I
lot of stitching for me that day.
yeah, I don't get a whole lot of stitching done typically at retreats or stitchy group meetups. And what Sharon's talking about is we have, believe it or not, there are cross stitchers in San Diego and Southern California, even though we have no stores. Well, I take that back, we do now. But we meet the third Saturday of every month at Grand Country Quilts in San Marcos, California. And Roxanne, the owner, is carrying cross stitch and linen. And so we're just thrilled. Our little group keeps growing. And Sharon and her husband were in San Diego visiting. And I think Karen Lynch posted something on Instagram. And
No, it was that other lady,
oh,
Gina.
oh, yes,
Gina. And it was
yes.
on Instagram, and I'm like, what? And I texted you. I'm like, are you going to? Oh no, your name was in there as a celebrity because you're a FlossTuber.
Oh, because it was a
And
meet and greet. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it was a
yeah.
meet and greet. And I'm like, and I turned it around, I'm like, oh my God, Chris.
I'm like, wait,
And
you're in
so
San Diego? You have to come.
I know.
And
So
you
then I text
did.
Karen. I text Karen and I didn't hear from her. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe she's busy, I know, whatever. And then we were pulling into the parking lot. I got a text. She's like, I'm already here. I'm like, yay, my girls are here.
I know. Isn't that funny seeing us all here?
That was so funny.
I know. And
What a
Karen,
coincidence. You know what I mean? That it couldn't have worked out better.
that was
It
so
couldn't have
perfect.
worked
I
out
was so
better.
excited
It
when
was
you
lots of
walked
fun.
in.
It's
Yeah,
a
we
cute
and we have
little
a
shop. She got it split into those two pieces, but I was able to find some stuff.
yeah,
So.
yeah. She's carrying fox and rabbit linen now too, and has more of that coming in. So
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Huh.
We're
Yeah.
excited. And our little group is growing. So if anybody's interested, just message me on Instagram and I'll tell you all about it. We have a great big stitching room to stitch in with great light.
It was very bright. Didn't even need a light.
Yeah, yeah, very comfortable. So should we talk? Do you want to start with whips or do you want to start with
I
okay.
have one, I think I have five. I have five. So I'm going to show you what I was working on. This is my pretty project bag.
Oh,
Plug for Tara at Starry Owl Stitchery on Etsy. She is, oh shoot, I don't have the front. Give me a second.
okay. That's a really pretty bag.
She is awesome.
I'm looking at all your cross stitch back there behind you.
Yeah, those were Little House Needleworks. She and I used to collaborate on a ton of stuff, and I have more in my finishes pile here that I'll
Okay.
show you. But yeah, I don't have, okay, so this is bad. I've got my working copy, which I can't show you, but this is a reflect a soie pattern called
Oh,
Oh Marie. And it's very beautiful. It's got this beautiful flower border. It's got the Virgin Mary in the middle, and it's got a prayer in French on banners, and then other motifs. And I think it came out in like 2015 or something. And I saw it and I bought the pattern. I'm like, I have to stitch this. And
I
of
think
course,
I
it's got
have
my
it.
stash. Huh?
I think I have it, that
Yeah.
pattern, because it's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
So I don't know. It was last year or something. I found it again in my stash, and I'm like, I'm stitching this. So I was headed up to the attic, and I'm like, and it called for a Veriswa, and I'm like, you know what? I'm stitching it in a Veriswa. I am a 32 count, 2-strand stitcher, but
Are
oh
you?
well, it's
That's
what I
okay.
like.
That's your jam.
That is my jam.
Okay.
I've tried 36 and 40. I can't see it and I don't enjoy it. So I'm going to stitch on what I enjoy. So it took me a long
Absolutely.
time to find the fabric that I wanted to stitch this on. And this is a piece of, it's by Forbidden Fiber, uh, Forbidden Fiber something, like, like something. I don't, sorry, big prepared here. But anyway, this is how big it's going to be. It's going to be huge. But well, because
And
it's
you've
on
got it in a
36.
little tiny hoop.
You know who taught me this? Because I like to stitch in hand, but then
Oh,
Mary
you do?
Darling taught me how to stitch in a Q snap. And I was like, okay, that's all right. But it was kind of like, I don't know, heavy or whatever. Not
Yes,
heavy, but it was bulky.
it
And so
is.
I was sitting there at the attic stitching with Tanya from the Scarlet House. We were having stitch time and lunch. And she, this is a 5-inch hoop. She was stitching in a 4-inch hoop on one of her big sampler pieces. And it's like this little piece that we're stitching. And I'm making fun of her, of course. And she's like, don't knock it till you try it. And so I
Yeah.
went over and got one. You know, we're in the attic, they have everything. And so I got one and I tried it and I have not looked back. It for me, it lets my thumb rest there. It's almost like I'm stitching in hand, but
Oh.
it's got enough like structure on it to hold the,
Are you
you know
poke
what I
and
mean?
stab? Are you doing the sewing
I
method or poke?
sew. I sew.
You
I
even
do
it?
the,
You
mm-hmm,
do.
I
Okay.
sew. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But yeah,
I, oh, look how pretty that is.
yeah, those are the Veriswa. So that pink border goes all the way around, pink flowers.
Wow.
And then there's an M and there's something else here. And then about over here is where the Virgin Mary will start. So I'm trying to get, I did the border because I love the pink. I'm like, oh, that's so pretty.
It
And
is. It's so pretty.
it's the fabric is kind of like a very, very pale grayish, like teensy bit of chocolatey. There's a little bit of brown in the fabric, surprisingly, but
Mm.
it kind of pulls off as a gray, and it's nice. It's very nice.
It
So
looks great with the
yeah,
thread.
my big sheet.
Are you using DMC or a Veriswa?
A Veriswa.
A
I thought this is
Veriswa.
a special piece to
It
me. I'm
is.
going to use the silk. So
Yeah.
yeah. And oh,
Oh,
here, I'll show you that. I'll save this for haul. Let's have a haul section.
okay, good.
Um, and then this, the very old project bag before there were project bags. I got this at the attic probably 20 years ago.
Really?
It
That's a cool
Velcros.
bag.
Mm-hmm. It
I like
Velcros.
that.
It has a little pouch.
Oh, I like the
Yeah,
fabric.
I know. Isn't that cool? I
It
don't know
is
what it
cool.
is. I don't know what it is. Oh, see, I never know what it is until I open the pouch. So, this is from, and my sweet daughter uh, ironed all these this morning for me.
Oh, wow.
I
I
was like,
never
well,
iron.
I thought, well, I'll be presentable today. So
Oh,
this is from A Heart Remembers by Blackbird, a big Blackbird fan. I love it's like, I call it primsicle. It's like primitive and whimsical. And it's just, I think it's so pretty. And oh yeah, there's no chart there. It's this one.
oh, so pretty.
It's called Anniversary Happiness to You, Dear Friends. And I'm stitching that for my husband and I. Where am I? There.
Oh, it's
Now, you
so
see those
pretty.
birds? Don't
Yes.
they look blue?
Yes.
Like blue, gray, whatever.
Right. What color are your birds?
Let me see. How am I going to do? I'll be like the professionals on Floss.
I know you're doing it.
They're green.
I can't tell. Oh, yeah.
So I looked at the colors and it's Classic Colorworks, which used to be Crescent Colors, and it calls for Stormy Night and poblano pepper. And I'm like, well, poblano pepper is a blue green, so maybe that's, okay. But I like it. It's nice. And I think once there's more colors, like I combined it called for DMC, but I used a week's like cognac or something, and it had kind of two, like a clay and a clay orange color in it. So I can use
Yeah.
those for the little hearts there and stuff. So
It's
yeah,
really pretty. What linen are
yeah.
you using?
My own linen. This is coffee cake. Let me see if I can get it up closer. This is a really nice piece too. That's all modeling. I don't know. It's gonna wash it out, I think.
I have a lot of light right now. This is the piece you sent me of coffee cake. That's
Yeah,
so pretty.
yeah. And see, this is
Just different
32 count,
lighting.
so it's also a little darker. The higher in the count you go, the lighter it gets.
Oh, okay. So this is, let me open this up then. You sent me 40 count.
Yes.
By the way, we're going to talk about this, but Sharon is dyeing linen now under Miss Crescent's Crowne. And she sent me some of her beautiful linen. So this is coffee cake. But again, I think it's getting a little blown out.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of golden.
Yeah.
I can't
It
get it.
does. Yeah, see, it's much more golden
There,
than,
right there is about right.
yeah. It's,
Yeah. So
oh,
yeah, so that's on mine is on 32 count. So it's going to be darker, more saturated. As it goes up, the fibers are tighter, so the dye doesn't get in as deep.
oh,
So
okay.
when you look at a piece of fabric that's 32 count and a piece that maybe be even 46 or 56 count, they're different colors. It's the
Yeah.
same
And that's
dye.
why it's the weave.
It's the weave. As you go up to 56 count, now you're 56 threads per inch. Then you go down to 32 count, you got 32. There is a big difference. And especially when you're dyeing it. And 32 count, it just kind of slurps it up. And 56 count, you kind of have to work it in. But
Interesting.
yeah. So that's my piece for my husband. I hope I can finish it by December when our anniversary rolls around.
You will. It looks
I'll
beautiful
try.
on that linen, those colors.
Yeah, I think it turned out really nice. I don't know where I got this.
Oh, that's a great
Pretty.
bag too.
It's got that. I don't know what it's called. My friend Renee uses it in her project folders. It's almost like a spongy feeling. It's very ASMR, I guess. I sit here and I'm just like, oh, that's so nice.
You're
Weirdo.
tactile like I am.
Oh, this is my Jane Parson by the Wishing Thorn. So when I saw this, I don't know what I saw it on, but somebody was stitching it with flower threads. I think maybe Brenda. She was stitching with flower threads, maybe. And I'm
That
like,
sounds
oh,
right.
that's really beautiful. And the next week, oops, sorry. Next week I was up at the attic and they had it and they had wool. So you use 28 count because
Yeah.
it's one strand of wool. I mean, it's thick.
Yeah.
It's kind of scritchy going through the fabric, but it's actually kind of a nice, like, it's kind of like it's very nice. But anyway, here's Jane Parsons, 1841.
Beautiful.
And there's no over one. It's all over two.
So you're doing
And
28 count with wool.
mhm.
Wow, I've
And
never
it's
stitched with wool.
so it's I'll pull one out. I'll pull a prettier one.
Thank you.
This is it's wool by Averis or not Averis. Yeah, Averiswa. Fine Dobusan or something like that wool. And it comes
Oh,
off the little hank in fours, in fourth
oh,
strands. And see,
oh,
you can
okay.
see it's wool. You can see the kind of the little,
It's a little fuzzy.
yeah, yeah. Beautiful colors, so saturated and nice.
Oh,
Let me see if I can pull some of them up. I mean, just gorgeous pinks and
how
roses
pretty.
and greens and stuff. And so this is on Fox and Rabbit 28 count ballet slipper. Okay.
Great color.
And I haven't gotten a lot done, but that is
Oh,
the upper right corner. And so
nice.
I'm going to get it close so you can see the coverage because the coverage is very tight.
It's really good.
It looks like tapestry. It's
Yes,
it's very cool.
I like it.
It's like I said, getting used to the little scritchy sound it makes. The feeling of the scritchiness isn't distracting. It's just kind of that you hear that because you don't hear that when you're using silks and cottons.
No.
But yeah, the it's so
Oh,
tightly
you
packed,
bet.
and I love it. So yeah, I'm
That
working
looks
on her.
great. You,
Yeah.
you're enabling me to want to do to stitch with wool.
Yeah, and the thing is it'll feel because she sits on 40 count, I know, and or even higher. Um, sorry, I'm making so much noise. I'm putting these things in their
That's
baggie.
okay.
the uh the holes are so big, even for me. I sit on 32 count. 28 count is like, wow, this is like a big mess. Um,
Feel like you're
so
flying when you're stitching on 28 count?
it's like it's not
Oh, I
very
need to
fast though
try
because
that.
the wool does slow you down a little bit, but it's very lovely. The colors are just lovely. Very nice to work with. Ah.
Well, I'm going to summer school. So you said Jean's carrying some wool now?
Yeah, she carries a packet. See, it said Jane Parsons.
Yeah.
What are they? They're 350 a skein. There is more than enough wool for me to do this. And I don't know how many colors there were. 15. 15 colors for this.
It's really
So
pretty.
it wasn't really thread expensive, because
Mm-mm.
get into silks and overdyed silks and
Right. But I want to try
blankets.
all of them. I want to try all the threads.
Well, I got into wool threads because I also do wool applique. And there is nothing better. So normally people like if they're doing wool applique, they'll use like a pearl cotton. Some use floss, some will apply floss and use some floss. But I personally liked like a pearl 8 or a pearl 12, made nice little blankets or whatever they call them, stitches around the edges of everything. And I had the opportunity, I don't remember what the wool was called, but I had the opportunity to get a spool of it was just like a blue, and I tried it, and there is nothing like stitching wool on wool.
Really?
It was the best feeling. I must have like this whole when I'm in the store, I touch everything. So I think I'm just a very
Yeah. Well, I am too. And I love the sound. You don't get
this
the
wool, I'm
sound with the
telling you, I wish
silk.
I would have had that with me and you could have like practiced on it because it is. I'll bring, well, when I see you at summer school, I'll bring it up.
I would love to see it in
Yeah.
person.
I'm not doing summer school because we'll be so busy with the fabric, but I'm going to sneak up for a day
Okay.
and come
Good. So
visit
I'll get to see you.
and lunch. So
Excellent.
this, how cute is this?
You've
It's
got
that
great
Teresa
bags.
Kogan.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the cutest? I'm such a sucker. And this girl probably waits for my purchase every week. Okay, I have not purchased one in like a month. So.
Okay, so see,
All right.
you
All
got
right,
to
so this,
go in and order a couple today.
yeah, seriously. Because I have more projects that don't have a bag. It's a sickness.
So why?
This is From the Heart, but needle art by Wendy. It's called Elizabeth Spring Basket.
Oh, I love Wendy's designs.
They're so clean and
Yeah.
cute. You know what I mean? They're symmetrical. They're not, I don't mind a asymmetrical, sampler or whatever, but it's just very, this same as this and kind of thing. And
Yeah.
this is on 32 count Madeline by Miss Crescent's Crowne.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure if I liked it because the colors are very pinky,
Madeline.
very
Madeline.
pinky purple kind of colors. And yes, I do have thread beds and thread bags, but this is how they are in my bag.
No
So
judgment here.
I don't have
No
very much done.
judgment.
I did this one afternoon at the attic when I was up there stitching. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
The colors look great on that linen.
yeah, because the linen is kind of a dirty yellow. And the colors are weeks. I'm using weeks, and there's greens and pinks and a little brighter pink, green, yellow. And they do look cute. They do look cute. There's two, she put out two designs at the same time of this, and just darling. Just darling. And of course it didn't hurt. Jean had a model.
It always
And
helps. So
always
this is coffee cake, and this is Madeline.
Madeline is a little bit lighter. Madeline is a little
That's not a
bit
good, that's not a,
lighter and a
it
little
is.
bit more yellow.
Yes.
Well, if you're noticing by the names, Madeline, those little Madeline pastries, we love those. We have a box here. And when we were dyeing that color, they looked exactly like the Madelines. So
You have to call
they're
it
Madeline.
Madeline.
That's Madeline. Huh?
And I love coffee cake too. I love the names
Yes.
that you're giving your linens. I
Isn't
love,
that funny? That was always my favorite part about Crescent Colors, the threads.
was it
Oh my gosh. I got to
naming
name
them?
everything. Yep. Yep. And obviously, I was hungry all the time because a lot of them have food names. Um, I like the sing song, kind of melodic. I, like some of these threads. One was poblano pepper, kind of,
Yes.
that kind of thing.
Well,
I've
you
got
were
some more.
sitting next to me and I was showing you, I was stitching on um, Annie B's pears, the spring green pears, but I changed the
Oh,
colors, and I was using
that was so
Zach's
cute.
black,
Oh
right?
yeah, Zach Black.
Zach
Zach is
Black.
my nephew, my second oldest nephew.
You named it after your nephew.
I did that whole. So there'd be like a theme. We'd release 4 or 5 threads at each market, and there used to be 2 or 3 markets a year. That's how it grew so quickly. In how many threads we had, and then all you have really is Nashville, and some people release stuff in the fall. So there was the whole niece and nephew. I did one for Megan, and I did one for each of my niece and nephews. So
Oh,
that one had Zach Black. That one had Tyler Boy Blue, Joshua Tree, and Blessed Jess. And then for
oh,
Megan, Nutmeggy, because I always call her Maggie and Nutmeggy. So my dad used to call her Nutmegan.
oh, we
So,
did. Oh,
but that one is so like this one is Pollywog.
yep,
It looked like a Pollywog, and this one is Licorice Red. It looked like a red vine to me.
totally. Just because we haven't talked about Crescent Colors yet, I just
Oh
want
yeah,
people
these are
to
classic
know
color.
that Sharon is the founder of Crescent Colors, which is now Classic Color Works.
Correct. Correct. I sold Crescent Colors in 2013 to one of my employees. And that employee is Diane Williams of Little House Needlework Designs. That's her son. And he worked for me for like 7 years. We did frames, which I'm going to show you in a little while. And he was the guy that did our frames. And so I was done. It was chaotic. All I was doing was business. I wasn't dying. I wasn't doing anything creative. And I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. So he came to me one day and, hey, if you ever want to sell it. And I'm like, you know what? I do. So I did. A week later, it was his. So,
Wow.
got attorney, all that kind of stuff. But, and then I was done. And I was fine with that. I was fine with that.
You were
And
ready. Yeah.
yeah, I had run it for 12 or 13 years. And, most of that time by myself, raising
Yeah.
Megan.
That's a lot of work. A lot of work.
A lot of work. So I have one last whip.
Okay.
Sorry, am I jumping around too much?
You're doing great. Are you kidding?
Okay.
No, we're just sitting and visiting. So there's
Okay.
no agenda or
Hi,
time limit.
Grace. Um, this is by Little Robin Designs,
Oh, I love her
and it's called
designs.
EE's Little Sampler. And of course, they have a model at the attic, and I thought it was absolutely darling.
It
And
is.
so,
I
of
love that
course, I
border.
oh,
Love the bird.
got all the threads. This I am stitching on wait, I believe this is Kappa Mocha. Anyway, I most of the time I start top right, but I've been starting in the middle lately. I don't know why, because there's usually something fun to stitch in the middle of a
Right.
piece. So
If you
yeah,
start in the upper corner, it's a border.
yeah, it's like, oh great, up three, down three, over two. Yeah,
Oh,
I started in the middle, and I got to stitch on the
you
little
got the
bird.
bird. Look at that. Oh, that's beautiful. That's cup of mocha.
Yeah. Now, see, in 32 count, in the higher counts, it gets darker, like browner, where this is still keeping a little bit of this is almost like a pinky chocolatey color.
Yes.
And yeah, as it gets
Uh,
darker,
that's not good. You
it's
can't go
almost,
by mine. It's not
yeah,
accurate.
it, yeah.
It is. Mine is a pinky brown on a 40
Oh, that's
cal.
kind of close.
Yes,
That's
that's
kind
good.
of, yeah. So yeah, so I started that little guy in the center. Now Robin has some of my fabric for designing. So yeah,
So we're going to see some new designs on your linen.
yeah, yeah. Well, they all remembered me from Crescent Colors, and it's like, well, we knew our threads were good. We know our fabrics are good.
Your linen is beautiful. I cannot
Thank
wait to
you.
stitch on it.
Thank you. All right. So those were my whips. Do you have any whips?
I do. They're not here because today's all about you.
Oh, well, fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
all about you. Do you have any finishes or anything else you want to show us stitching wise?
My most recent finish, it was maybe 3 or 4 months ago because it's already framed and framing. Ever since COVID, it takes a while to get something framed because the moldings are whatever. But I
Still,
brought,
yeah.
so I stitched on this a long time. I'm a slow stitcher. I admit it. I don't care. And I stitched and stitched and stitched on this and finally got it finished. This was called Union Forever by her name is Maggie Bononomy. She's a wool like quilt
Yes.
designer, and
Yeah.
she did some back in like 2005 or something like that. She did some cross stitch design for Blackbird. So the pattern was Union Forever, Maggie Bononomy for Blackbird Designs. And it is called Union Forever.
Oh,
And the frame, very, very cool frame. Has a little stars in it.
oh, that's a perfect frame for that.
Yeah, black, kind of a soft black. But yeah,
Oh,
so I
I
finished it. I
love
never get
that.
glass. I don't do glass.
You don't.
Mm-mm,
Why not?
mm-mm.
Just out of curiosity, because I know some people love to put glass on, others don't. I'm always curious why.
I just never have. I don't know if it's because I want to see it or and maybe even Dutch. Um, I don't know. I just never have put glass. Now, when I needlepoint and I finish a needlepoint, I always put glass on it because it's got all kinds of fibers, silks and shimmers and all these kind of things. And so I don't know. I always put glass on it with spacers
Yeah,
so that everything. But for cross stitch, I don't. I might have one or two things somewhere that have glass on it,
yeah,
but I don't even have to tell Sandy anymore. I just give this to her and she
she
doesn't have to ask.
knows.
She knows I don't need glass. But yeah, so I'm very proud of this.
Oh, I really
Lots of
like
different
that.
threads. Um, I use Gentle Arts, I use Classic Color Works, I use Crescent Colors. I had an old skein of Belle Soie, Crescent Colors Belle Soie baguette, and that's what the white in the flag. But yeah,
Really,
very
that is
proud of
great.
it.
I love how she did the flag. I love the
Isn't that fun? It's
flowers.
got such, I mean, it's got such movement.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
great.
so
Did
very proud
she,
of that.
so I have a big gap, like 15 years where I didn't stitch, where Blackbird was, very, very popular or new. And so Maggie, did she do many things with them?
I want to say there's one or two more out there. I don't know if I have them because my stash, I have it in, well, I have a bunch of it in project bags, obviously, but I've got tubs and tubs of stuff. And, when you own a business in the needlework industry, people give you all kinds of stuff. I would go to market. I rarely had to buy any patterns. I'd go to market, go down to Blackbird's room, visit Barb and Alma, and take them their new threads because they did use our threads in their designs.
Yeah.
And they would just gather like one of each of their patterns. Here you go. Like I'm like, oh, thank you. So I just so much stuff. I want to say that there was one or two more. Her
Yeah.
colors, it was really interesting how she used the colors in this. Um, it's just I really loved it, and it was so funny because I got all the way down. I did everything except for those two big honking leaves, and I don't like to stitch up. I don't know why I don't like to stitch up because you have to put it in a different hole and whatever.
Yeah.
So I had done this one, and our dear friend Mary Darling said, "Turn it upside down so you can stitch it,"
Stitch it
and it
down.
works because your holes now are in the right spot.
And your
And so this
stitches are
whole
still
leaf
going the
I
same
stitched down.
direction. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just finished it and I was done. I'm like, but yeah, this is a favorite of mine.
I can see why.
Yeah. Years ago, this is 2006, and now this is a little dusty, which I
Oh,
just take a lint roller over it.
don't even worry about dust. That's why my screen's blurred. My background's blurred today because I need to dust.
I think Megan went back through here and dusted. Yeah, this
Did
was
she?
from 2006. That is that
See, I've
Home
never
of the
seen that.
Brave. And I stitched this in 2006. So I still owned Crescent Colors. And this is used brick. The color is used brick. It was stitched, I think, in red on the pattern. Um, but it was all one color and it was fun because, it got all the variegation up through the
You sure
tree and in the roof
did.
of the
Yeah.
house and stuff like that. So I took it off to Sandy to frame. And I'm like, I don't, and normally I don't even have to tell her. I just say, here you go. And she knows what I like. And it always comes back perfect. So I took it to her. I'm like, I don't know what you're going to do with this, but whatever. She calls me, says it's ready. I went in and she had taken a frame and she painted it, I don't know, or stained it to
Oh,
match the used brick. So
I
the
was going
whole
to say
thing
that
is
frame is
that color.
perfect for that. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
One of my favorite things hangs on my wall.
I can
So
see
that was a
why.
Blackbird too. And this one, I had finished these, but just got them framed. This is one of the collaborations we used to do with Little House Needleworks. We'd make thread packs with them. Diane would make some designs, a series of designs, and we would release them as thread packs. We'd put them in a package with a chart and the thread. And there was like these, what do you call this when there is that a band sampler? No, I don't.
No.
But anyway, this is called Spring Sampler, and this was Belsois. And so I had that, and I just handed it off. It's like on natural, like raw linen, and I handed it to Sandy. And this was just recently, and I don't know if you can see that's kind of blue, like the blue in
It's
the bird.
perfect.
Yeah,
She does such a great job, and that
I
frame is
I am.
perfect for that.
Yeah,
There you
shameless
go.
plug. Sandy,
That's
best framer I know. Um, Oh, and this was the other one I got done. And I hope nobody comes to you and is like, I need that chart that Sharon had on her thing. It's not available. Trust me, it's not available. It was a piece that Diane did special for a shop for breast cancer uh, fundraising. And I still have mine in a drawer. And so I took it in and Sandy framed it.
oh, that's fabulous.
And it's just like little, it, the grains don't match, but it doesn't matter. It's so
It,
cool.
it goes. It's
Yeah.
complimentary.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that one. This is one of my favorite ones. We did a series, they were about family members. And this one, I love this one. It's called
Oh,
Gentle and Kind Mother. And we made this frame.
it's perfect.
We years ago, mid 2000s, a company named Hog River Farms made these little primmy beat up frames for like Heart and Hand and Bent Creek and them. And they went out of business. And we had released Belsois. And I'm like, we can do frames. How hard can it be? And it wasn't. It wasn't that hard. And so we released a line of frame. I've got another one here that's a little more
I
our
didn't
style.
know that you had frames as well.
And it was so funny because I'm kind of like jumping around the story, but it'll all make sense. Um, but it was called Family Tree Frame Company, a branch of Crescent Colors.
Oh,
And all the frames had names of the family member. This one, I don't remember what it was called because it was just this plain one. It did have a name, but I can't remember.
yeah.
But this is another piece by Diane Williams, Little House Needleworks, and it's called Queen Bee.
Oh,
And those are Crescent Colors. I stitched this. She's got little beads in her
oh
crown.
yeah, yeah.
And this is just done on like a raw linen. And this was the frame style.
I love that frame.
Isn't it fun?
Yes,
This one was called something, the Michelle or something, for my sister, Shelly. I think it was called the Michelle.
it's perfect in that.
Isn't it fun? It's just so
How
cute.
fun.
These seemed
Yeah,
fluttery to me, like they just
yeah,
seemed,
like a bee.
yeah,
Oh, I really like that.
yeah. And then my last finish, I didn't stitch it, but I received it for my birthday from a very special someone, Mary Darling,
Oh, did she
our
stitch
friend
that for
Mary
you
Darling.
recently? Oh,
It's the 2024 Collector's Heart from Heart and Hand. And it's got reds, which she loves reds, and pinks, and I love pinks. And she stitched
oh,
it for me and signed it on the back for my birthday.
oh, what
It's
a nice friend.
so sweet.
It
She's a
is.
very dear friend. Very dear Mary Darling. So yeah, those are my finishes.
Awesome. I had no idea that you that you did frames as well in your business. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Should we
Well,
talk about that
here.
or what else?
This is
Okay.
one that I stitched for Megan. This is from 2009, from that same series where it says daughter, joyful and caring. And this is the frame. We made that frame.
Are you going to do frames again? Never say never, right? I think they're fabulous.
They're the so when I sold the business, I sold family tree frames along with it.
Yeah.
And he sold it to someone else that works within the business as well. This was always very family oriented, even when I started it. And she still owns it, but as far as I know, she's not making frames right now. So I don't know. I can't speak for her, but I still know how to do this.
You're so cute. And I
And
don't
there's
see,
nothing in the market like
I
this.
was just going to say that. I don't see anything else like that out there. And
Yeah.
to
Just
have
sitting
a
there with a,
project and a frame that's going to go right in it, sign me up.
we did things like 5x5 and 6x6 openings so that it was easy. 4x6s, 5x7s, 8x10s. That way it was, standard size frames. But yeah,
Oh,
Little House New York. These are still for sale, these patterns. Little House New Works. Do you want to see my one haul?
yes.
Well,
Did you go?
actually, I did get something down in the other quilt store was in the other room, but this was so you make that purchase or whatever when
Yeah.
you're
So
there.
so for viewers, if you come to our Stitchy Day, it's $10 for you to stitch from 10 to 3, or if you buy $10 or more worth of merchandise, one or the
Right.
other.
So of course I bought $40. This is, I've always loved these, and I've wanted one of these because they are so cute and they're so complete. This is by Samplers Not Forgotten. It's called Bee Delight Kit,
Yes. Yeah.
and it comes with everything. Everything. Somewhere down there is a bee charm.
I love
The
it when it's all
backing
packaged
fabric.
like
Now
that.
I don't know what I'm going to do because I think that the fabric is 36 count, but I might just suck it up and do it. Yeah, it's very pretty, very springy.
It is. See, that's how I like to shop for clothes like that too.
Oh, I
I don't
know.
I don't want to
And
rifle
I would
through.
wear
It's like
gingham all the time.
show it to me all together and I'll buy the whole thing.
Right. Oh, and if you'd like, I can show you my next start. I don't have the
Yes.
fabric, but it's cream puff. Well,
Okay.
here, Megan's got fabric for me here. Hang on. So it's going to be on cream puff. This is cream puff. It's hard to
And
see. The lighting, it
how would
doesn't
you
matter what the
describe
lighting is.
cream puff?
Huh?
How would you describe cream puff?
It's kind of that, it's kind of a tan with a pink cast, maybe.
Is this?
I don't know. Oh, I can't sell this piece because it's got a big yellow splotch, so I put a pin there.
Oh, oh darn, you'll have to use it.
Yeah, I do, and I have a plan. I have this is the Lone Eagle sampler by Needlework Press.
Yes. I want to
And so
stitch
the
that.
original is at the attic on the front table there. And this looks really bright red, and I think she used a brighter red, but the original was like this soft, faded, just gorgeous red. So
Yeah.
I'm going to use cream puff, and I got this.
Mm.
I'm sure I don't need this whole thing. I'm going to try and do,
Oh, whoa.
yeah,
That'll be
it's
gorgeous.
really beautiful. Kind of
Yes.
this like soft red, maybe.
Hmm.
I don't know. And I thought, I'm gonna get the whole hank, and that way maybe I'll stitch something smaller, same
It's
colors.
so
So yeah, so
pretty.
that's gonna be my next start. I was gonna start this at Bristol, and then I just talked too much. So
It's so hard to stitch at those retreats for
well, and you're
me.
busy, like at Bristol, you're busy stitching your name badge and all of that. So
And I want to visit.
well, right, who wants to
I can
oh
stitch
no,
at
I
home
can't
by
talk.
myself.
We haven't seen each other since last year, but I'm really busy stitching. Nobody stitches.
We go to socialize.
That's right.
Yeah,
Eat and socialize.
that's right. That's right. So tell me how you started, how you got into Crescent Colors. Because you were going to school to be you were in
A
medical
doctor.
school. Yeah.
And that got waylaid. My I've been married 3 times. I'm not ashamed. Dwayne is my third husband. My second husband, not a nice man. And when I graduated from college, I was not allowed to go to medical school. And so I didn't. I had these two big fat degrees that I worked very hard for and wasn't able to go. So, okay. So I worked a couple jobs. I worked as an executive assistant, and I worked as, here I am, college educated, and I'm doing the same things that I was before I decided to, throw it all in the wind and go to back to school. And then I got a job at a heart hospital here in Tucson, and I was a hospital administrator. So, a little more my speed. So
Yeah.
while I was there, things were not very good in the home life. So I needed a distraction. And that's when I went back and found cross stitch. I thought, that made me calm. I'm going to go over to the West and I'm going to see what they've got. Well, that's when they had all of that stuff, all the new, they never hand dyed threads, hand dyed fabric, buttons, those little Jabco buttons, and Lizzie Kate, and these things were just, they were unbelievably darling, in my opinion. And I'm like, oh
And
my
not
God,
what we were
stitching.
seeing before that. I mean,
No
right? No,
teddy
I mean, if you
bears
could
and
find an Ada that was colored a
oh
light
yeah.
blue, right? It's like, whoa, score.
I don't even think I think I stitched on white, cream. I think that was it.
Yeah.
I never stitched on anything that was colorful or whatever. But so I was there, and the lady that was working in the needlework department was very sweet. And now this stuff wasn't as, I don't want to say cheap, it wasn't as inexpensive as it was back in the late 80s. This stuff was hand dyed. These patterns were, single patterns for what you used to be able to get a whole pattern book, like with 20 designs in it.
The
And I was like,
leaflets.
I don't care. So cute. So the first one that I saw, it was a heart and hand, and it was called Wee Angel. She had a little green gown and little wings and stuff. And I thought, okay. And so the lady's like, you've got to try linen. You've got to try linen. And I'd never stitched on linen. So 28 count, got some linen, not hand dyed. Um, and then it called for sampler threads. I'm like, I don't even know what sampler threads, what does that mean?
What
And so
is
she
that?
goes over to the wall and she shows me. And it only took like 4 colors. So I was like, okay. So I got some and, new needles. Who knew where my stuff was? And I went home and I started it and I was like, this is so cool. That, it was, and heart and hand, they were these big blocks of color. So, you could just sit there and stitch and that's what made it easy when I was sitting in between classes to sit there and stitch. It wasn't fiddly. So I finished that. I'm like, okay. So I went back and I got what was it? Lizzie Kate had this little design and it said hippity hip hip hoppity or some hippity hippity hop or something like that. Had carrots on the side, was on this like lemonade colored linen, very bright sampler threads. And I was like, oh my gosh. Well, it took like 7 or 8 sampler threads for this little piece, and they didn't have the fabric. Um, and so I was like, okay, that's a lot of money. And that was a source of contention at home. And so I was like, you know what? And so I got the DMCs out because it had the conversion. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to change colors like this. It's not going to be shaded.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, well, how hard can it be? I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get white and some white linen, and I'll stop by the store on the way home and get dye. That's when you could go in the grocery store and there was, what's it called? Rit dye.
Grit dye. Yeah.
And so I did that. And I was a chemist at heart. So, and color theory has never been lost on me. It's like, okay, yeah, red and yellow make orange and whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how did they do this? And it's a lot of trial and error. I finally got the threads to look the way that I thought they should look.
Mm-hmm.
Dip dyed the linen in some yellow. And I stitched it and I had the most fun stitching that. Because the colors, they just changed. It was so pretty. And I'm like, well, why would I spend? Because back then you could get, I mean, you're talking 1990, probably 9 to probably 1999. And the West sold sampler threads on 10-yard skeins, and I think they were $2.90. But that was, when you're buying 7 or 8 of them, that was, you're in the 20s now for just the thread.
That was a
And
lot then. Yeah.
so anyway, so I'm like, okay, well, and DMC was still like 25 cents or something like that. And so I found my next pattern. It was a Beck Creek at hip hop hooray or something, had this big bunny going across it, this big carrot on the bottom. It was darling. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to dye some. I still have some of this orangey color and some of this, but I'm going to try a couple of these sampler threads to see if they're, whatever. Oh, they're wonderful. They were wonderful. So this carrot, it literally was across the bottom of this piece. It was sizable piece for me. And the carrot, it was stitched in a color called nutmeg. It was very whimsical. It was very prim. Fine. So I went over one Saturday, got a skein of nutmeg, came home, and I get it out and I'm stitching and I'm like, whoa, this isn't right. It's two different colors,
Uh-oh.
you know? And I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I got the wrong. So I dig the tag out from before. No, it said nutmeg. So I put it down. The next Saturday I go out there and I said to the lady, I said, I think there's a mistake. I said, this, and I took the piece with me. I said, this is what I stitched with nutmeg, but this is what, and she's like, oh, yeah, that happens. Like, okay, maybe, okay, all right. And I'm not fond of picking things out, but I really liked this piece, and I was not going to stitch half of it in this color and half of it in that color.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, fine. So I bought some white DMC. I got home. I made my version of what that carrot should look like, and I picked it all out, and
You did.
I stitched it all back in. At least I knew it was going to be the same color.
Right, right.
So at that point, I was like, why would I spend all this money on thread when I can just make my own? So I did. And I stitched like that for a while. And I had a group of girls that I met with for stitching. And they're like, well, where did you get that thread? And I dyed it myself. And I'm telling them how to, I'm like, you just go to the store and you can, whatever. And this went on for a while. And they're like, well, I would like some. And I'm like, okay. So that was fun then. I just get some DMC and just dye it whatever colors and wrap them with a little bow and take them the next time. And
Oh,
they were just thrilled. Well, then they're like, okay, we're not taking any more of this from you. We want to buy it. You shouldn't have to be spending all. And I'm like, it's 25 cents. So I'm like, fine. It was a challenge. I was still working at the heart hospital, and that was a stressful job. But anyway, so I built myself this little retail website. First off, I came up with a name because I was like, what do I name it? I gotta name it. I this much business experience in my life, none.
really,
I
really.
none. I was a science girl.
Yeah,
None.
yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, my last name, it's Crescent, and I'm like, okay, colors, and then I threw the extra U in there to make it fancy, like the British spell it, and so it's Crescent Colors. So I got my little business license. I did it all right, and I made this little website that took me forever, and I started with 15 colors. I had the recipes that was important to me after the nutmeg debacle.
Right.
I'm like, I'm gonna make this thread the same every time. It's not hard. You just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Later down the road, I understand why there's problems with dialogues.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I, made like 10 of each and put it on there, and they all bought them. And this was so much fun. So this went on, and I would dye, I would make some new colors and, put them on the website, and they'd buy them all. And so one of my friends lived in, is Osage in Iowa, the Stitchery Nook? I think it's Iowa. One of my friends lived in Iowa, and she had gone to Stitch Group or whatever on a Saturday, and she had my threads in her bag because that's what she was stitching with. And everybody wanted to know what they were because all of a sudden I'm getting this influx of orders. I'm like, what the heck? And she emailed me and she said, "Hey, this is what happened. And the owner wants to talk to you." I'm like, "The owner of what?" And she said, "The store." I'm like, "I don't sell to stores." And so long story short with that, I talked to them and I understood that I would have to sell it for half because they were retail and I would be selling wholesale. And at that point I thought, you know what? I'm just going to sell wholesale. This is too confusing. I don't want different taxes for this. And I don't want all that. So that's what I did. I left the website up, but I didn't really sell anything through it then. They bought, and at that time I had about 50-ish colors. So they bought, like three of each. And I think I'm such the businesswoman. And so I get it all done and send it off. And I'm just like, oh my God. So
Right.
they get it. A couple more shops. The local shop in Tucson was the Busy Needle, and she stocked it, and we became friends. And little bits by bits by bits. I had like 10 or 15 shops that were buying from me, and I was just like, oh, this is like the perfect. Back then, it
Wow.
wasn't a side hustle, but that's
Wow.
basically what it was. It was a side hustle.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm I can't remember. I got an email. Now, everybody in the cross stitch industry, I don't know if everybody knows about Hoffman Distributing. Hoffman Distributing is the biggest cross stitch distributor, a distributor of cross stitch things in the world.
Mhm.
And I knew who they were ish, because there'd be a thing every, there would be a thing, what did, there would be a thing every Friday I got in my email. It was like the newest patterns or whatever. So anyway, one day I got an email from the general manager there. His name was Rod, and he said, "Hey, introduce himself, et cetera, et cetera. We heard about your threads. We'd be interested in distributing them." And I'm like, "What?" And so I emailed him back and I said, "I don't really know what that means, but I'm suspecting I'm not going to be able to help you." So he emails me back. He says, we would make them available in our catalog to everybody that orders from us. And so I emailed him back and I said, "Well, who orders from you?" "Every shop." I emailed him back very polite. I'm very flattered. I I never thought that this would become this, but I can definitely not supply your demand. I said, "There's no way." I work as, I have a full-time job. I'm at board meetings in the evenings and all this stuff.
And you're a mom and
And I'm a mom. Now she's, a teenager or what, almost a teenager. And it just, you know what I mean? No. And so I thanked him and he emailed me back several times. And I was just like, I'm so flattered, but I'm sorry. No. And that was that. I still sold to the few little shops and I was fine with that. And one day, the president of the hospital, who was my boss, and I not only an administrator of the medical staff, I was also his assistant. Well, it was boss's day or something, and I'd gotten my 20-minute chewing out that morning. Came out of that office, and I drew the short stick and had to go buy the boss's day present. Like, yeah, I'll go buy you a boss's day present.
I got a
Anyway,
present for you.
yeah, I got a present. So anyway, I stomped out. I had to go get a round of golf at one of the golf resorts here and stomped out to my car. And I get in my car, I get to my car, reaching for my keys. And with my keys comes out the business card I've brought at Hoffman Distributing Company. I was just mad enough to make the call.
Wow.
And I said, the hospital job, insurance and benefits and money and all of that. So I call him up and I say, "Hey, I want to know what you need from me because I'm considering this." And so we talked about it on my way over to this place. I said, "I'll call you right back." Went in, bought it, came back out the car. And this was the most flattering thing anybody ever said to me while I owned the business and probably in my life. I said, "What do you need from me?" And he said, "I need a set of all your threads because we haven't seen them yet." And I said, you want to just sell my threads to all these people and
You hadn't
you've
even
never
seen
seen
them.
them? And he said, we've just heard that they are the best out there. And I'm like, okay, well, they're good, but there's also sample threads and weeks. I didn't say that, but, which are lovely threads as well. And I'm like, really? Okay. So I got the address and all that stuff. I go home, pick one of each off my wall. At this point, I have 90 threads.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun. Creating color was fun. You know what I
Was
mean?
it?
That was the best part, naming them and making the new cards for all this stuff. So
Yeah.
I went home, I had a little pegboard in my walk-in closet in my bedroom. I had a pegboard with all these hooks and they were all there. So when I pulled an order, it was easy. And all my clothes were in my office's closet. The bedroom closet was the work closet. So anyway, I pack that up. I send them to I hear from them. He calls me a few days later and said, and this was the owner of Hoffman. His name is Lane Hoffman, and he's a stitcher. Um, and so he stitched with them. Said it was the nicest threads he'd ever stitched with. We definitely need to carry these. And I said, listen, I work this, and I told him the situation, and he said, well, and this was like November. No, September, because there was a reason that I signed a contract with him in October. Okay, so this was like September-ish. And he says, look, we don't have to move fast on this. There's a market for the shops in February, and that's when we want to debut. He said, but what I want to do is pull it in, get it in the catalog, people can order it, and we can see how it goes
Yeah.
from there. But the big debut, it'll be a soft launch. I'm like, and I said, well,
Okay.
how much would you, huh?
Okay.
I don't know. I had at that point now, we're up to 105 colors. Because this took, I mean, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I kept blowing them off. And I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So I'm up to 105 colors. And so I said, so what do you need? What do you need me to do? And he said, well, I need 100 each of your colors. And I said, that's 10,500 skeins of floss. And he said, yeah. And I said, you have got to be kidding me. I mean, I look back at it. I was just so like, what? Oh. And so anyway, I'm like, okay, but it's going to take us a few weeks. And at this point, my beautiful parents, my dad, may he rest in peace, but my parents were so behind this. I would dye the thread. So I would take Megan to school in the morning. By now, she's 12, 11, middle school maybe. I would drive her to school. The night before, I had dyed thread and it was on these hangers. My dad made this big long clothesline in my garage. I would dye like 8 or 10 colors. This was after working, after homework, after dinner. I would run those over to my parents. I would go to work at the heart hospital. I would get off, pick up Megan, go pick up the floss, and bring it home. Or I would pick up what they had done and bring it home.
Yeah.
Um, all day long, they put floss on cards, my mom and dad, all day long, all day long. And I would get home, I would dye thread, put it up. It's hot in Arizona. It Even if it's not hot, it's dry, so everything dries really
Tries
quick. So it's
quickly.
all
Yeah.
drying out. And this went on every weekday. And on the weekends, my parents would pick Megan up from school. I had a small Friday night where it was like my time. And then on Saturday, I would go over there and the three of us would sit at the smallest table in the house, big, huge dining room. We're in her craft room at a card table and we're all carding floss. It took us 3 full weeks to do that order. We were exhausted. I'm like, I don't think I want to do that.
Oh my God.
So anyway, we get it done. I tell him, I'm like, we're going to ship. He's like, that is awesome. It didn't take you long at all. And I'm like, okay. So it's in these big boxes, 5 of them, tons of floss. And I'm like, oh my God. So I was selling him for $1 then. That was $10,000 worth of floss, over 10,000. No, you pay your distributor cut of it, whatever. But it was a lot of money. So of course they're in boxes. I insure them. Whatever. And I'm like tracking them as they go along. They finally
Yeah.
get there.
You're like
Thank
your kids.
God. No kidding. So anyway, he gets them. They put them in the catalog and they start selling. And I start getting these orders from him for 100 Manor Red or 100 black coffee. And I'm like, what is this for? He's like, well, I have to restock. And I'm like, well, you didn't tell me. Yeah, I just how dumb I was.
I
I
just
wasn't
gave
dumb.
you
I was just
10,000
naive. I'm like,
skeins. What do you
I
mean you need more?
just saying all that. And I'm like, oh, should I call my parents? I'm like, I got to dye more floss. I got to dye all this floss. I don't know what I thought. It was just going to last it forever. And so anyway, so I start, I'm starting to see he's got this. And it's like 3 days a week I'm getting these orders from him. And I'm like, what the heck? Yeah, like, okay. So he tells me this was, and then I signed a contract with them in October that they were going to be my only distributor. They would do all my marketing, advertising, whatever. So um, he said, okay, we're going to do this thing at Nashville. We're going to make up 150 of these really cool, clear party box looking things. And it's going to have one of each thread in it. And that's how we're going to introduce them. I'm like, oh, okay. 105 colors, whatever. And I said, okay, how many do you need? And he said 150. And I'm like, okay. So, we get it all together and we're working. I'm working. It's Christmas time. We're going through that because the market was in February. So we get all ready to go. I asked for the time off, and everybody at work knew what I was doing, my little side business. And I told my boss that, these are the days I need to be off. And he says, is this for that string thing? And I said, embroidery floss, but yes. And so he's like, what? Whatever. He says, I'm like, okay, whatever. So I get all ready to go to market. I'm completely nervous. I go to it's at an Embassy Suites there in Nashville. I'm like, know any of these people? I had never met Rod before in person. We'd talked on the phone for over a year. And so I get there and we meet, and he's just a Southern guy and really super nice. So we get ready, and the next day, and I'm in their room and I'm meeting people. I'm being introduced to Sharon Crescent Colors, new thread line, et cetera, et cetera. We had 150 of those boxes. And, that's a lot of thread. So, that's a lot of outlay for a shop. And nobody knew anything about these threads. Nobody was using them in their designs. And Rod had gotten people to commit to using them. So that was what he was telling the shops. And they did. They all did. Um, so uh the thing opened at 9 a.m. and they were all gone by noon. And I'm like, wow. I had a cell phone, but I wasn't going to stop and be like, oh, mom. Um, so, later that evening, I called home and mom's like, well, how did it go? I'm like, we're sold out and they're taking orders for these things. So I'm going to come home with orders. She's like, oh my gosh. She said, we'll do it. Don't you worry. We'll get it done.
Oh.
And best parents ever.
Oh.
Um, and so I'm sitting at the airport that Monday morning coming home, and I'm like, okay, this is all great, but I can't do both. I am stretched too thin. And so I'm talking to my mom on the phone, and she said, well, how much money was that? I said it was about $14,000. I said, in a weekend. And she's like, oh, she said, but you'd be giving up so much benefit. And I'm like, you know what, mom? I'm a single mom. I work my butt off. I hardly see my kid. You know what I mean? I think I'm going to take a chance on this. And she's like, oh my gosh, let me talk to your dad. Well, what year was that? That was 2002. I was 40. Let me talk to your dad. I'm like, okay, I'm doing this anyway.
You go
I'm a
ahead and
grown.
talk to dad.
Yeah, go talk to daddy. And so I went back and I worked for a week, and We figured out what we had to ship, and there was going to be no way. I couldn't do both. I was at a cross. I couldn't do both. And so I had the face-to-face talk with my parents, and they're like, we support you, whatever you want to do. I went in, I gave my notice, and the boss was like, you are quitting your job to do that string thing? I'm like, okay, first off, quit calling it string. It's embroidery floss. Rude. And he's like, you're never going to make any money at that. But I'm like, okay, well, first off, I am making money at it. And second off, if I'm doing it full time, I'll make more money. So whatever. So I gave my 2 weeks notice, like a good girl. And then all of a sudden I am dyeing floss full time. I am still dyeing it in my kitchen sink. I am still hanging it on the hangers in the garage. My parents and I are still putting it all on cards. So now that I don't work during the day, I'm dyeing in the evening. I'm taking all the floss over there, take Megan to school, take all the floss. We work on floss all day. We worked on floss every day, every 7 days a week. Well, now it's like these designers are using it. Little House Needleworks, who remains very, very successful in this industry, was just starting out and people were just dying for her things. She started using it. My sales went through the roof. So that was February of 2003. By February of no. So the next Nashville I did on my own. I went and I had my own booth. You know, you do the booth in your room. I had my own room. And I took Megan with me. And so, because she's like, now like 14 or whatever. And, she's a very pleasant child, very smart, very works hard. So we went and sold all the threads we had brought. The next market, that was a cash and carry market. So you took product and you sold it there. The next market, they used to have markets in the summertime in Columbus, Ohio. And they were more needlepoint, but there was still a big cross stitch presence there. But you took orders. So I'd come home with a stack of orders and then have to fill those. So this went back and forth, back and forth. And I think it was about 2006, now I'm doing the markets myself. And by this time now, there are too many tubs in my house, my parents' house, and we need help. So it was time to get a warehouse.
It took over.
It was everywhere. It was everywhere. My kitchen, it was everywhere. So I'm like, okay, we need a warehouse. So I went and found us a warehouse. Daddy revised the kitchen sink area. And I had a friend who found work for disabled people. And those were some of my first employees. They could put floss on cards. They weren't, you know what I mean? I even had a blind man putting floss on cards. He did his work. I didn't care. So anyway, but at some point I had to get employees. Like, I needed someone to run the office. I needed someone to help me with the dyeing. I needed someone to do this, that, and the other thing, pulling orders and all that.
Yeah.
And so I started hiring regular employees. The employees that I had that were putting the floss on cards worked at home. They did piecework. In my warehouse, my sister had moved out here. She did the dyeing. And this whole time I'm in the front in an office doing business work, which
you'd rather be dyeing.
I'd rather be dyeing thread, whatever. So, and then that's when I hired Ronnie and we started doing the frames. About that same time, Jean Lee from the attic asked if I would dye silk. And I'm like, I had never even stitched with silk at that point. I had plenty of cotton to stitch with. And I said, well, okay, I got to source the silk. So tell me what kind of silk. She told me the same kind of silk that Rainbow Gallery sold as Splendor. It's a 12 strand from France. And I lucked out, found the source, ordered in several cones, practiced. It was a totally different dye process than the cottons, and figured it out, took Jean some samples, and she's like, oh my God, oh my God. So it was time to go to market, and I took 250 sets. I had 25 colors, 250 sets. They were sold out in an hour. all the while I am like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And then of
Right.
course we're taking orders.
Yeah.
We're orders and orders. So now when I get home, we've got to fill the orders. And it went like that for several years. And you know, the the money from Belsois funded the frame company, and the frame company funded the pearl cottons and the you know what I mean? I never took a business loan. I just invested the money back into the business.
Wow.
And at one point, I think it was about 2010, I had 15 employees. We grew out of that first warehouse in less than a year. It was a 1,200 square foot warehouse. And across the alley in the same complex was a 3,800 square foot warehouse. And we moved into that and filled it up in a few months.
Wow.
We took a hit, 2008 hit, the recession hit.
Yeah.
Took a hit because people, what's more important, gas and groceries or fancy embroidery floss?
Right.
That was no brainer. I mean, I got it. That was so shops closed, that kind of thing, but we were still busy. And like I said, it was about 2013 that I was done. All I was doing was the business end of it.
Yeah.
And that was no fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was no fun. That
Yeah.
was no fun. And like I said, my employee came to me and he, if you ever want to sell it, I'll buy it. And the next week he owned it.
That's what a story. How it
I taught at
just,
retreats. I went to retreats just to tell this story.
yeah.
I traveled all over, all over. I
Wow.
taught in Italy.
You
There's a
did?
shop in, Mhm, mhm. It was 2010. And he even paid for Megan to go with me. And I went and taught. There's a designer named Nikki Ferruto, Nikki's Creations.
Hmm.
I taught a wool embroidery class with her. And then for 3 hours one afternoon, sat out and signed autographs on
You were
skeins of
famous.
thread. It's embroidery floss.
Wow.
My name signed on the back of your embroidery.
Did you ever run into
Anything.
that former boss? And
No, I never did. But the second year I was in business, I made more than he did.
wow,
I knew, you knew how much they made,
of
whatever.
course. Yeah.
My second year in business, and I was still doing it out of my house at that point. I made more money than he did
Wow. I think that is such a fabulous
with that
story.
string thing.
With the string thing. How insulting. And now, fast forward to 2024.
Well,
And
fast
I
forward to
was so
2020.
surprised to see this. Now you're dyeing beautiful linen.
We dyed linen in the very, very beginning.
You did.
Before I was selling wholesale, I would make these things up. I called them kitlets. And I would take, like, Lizzie Kate had all those, like, January, February, March, and I would stitch them in what I saw them as. So I'd dye a piece of blue fabric for this, and these threads I use for this, and I'd stitch them and I would sell that. And I had Linda Ebright, Lizzie Kate's permission to do that. I said, I'm not copying anything. And if you don't want me to do this, I won't. Like, oh, no, go ahead. We sold a ton of those, and I dyed linen then, and people really loved my linen. In fact, Jean carried my linen back then. And then it let's just say it got to be too much.
Yeah.
And so I kept the threads and gave up dyeing linen. And about a year ago, I'm like, I'm going to create something and pass it on to my daughter. Because now she's 34. She's a trained esthetician, but I would like to leave her something. So talk to her about it. And now we have a fabric business. She's my business partner. She's actually the one that dyes your fabric.
So
I
she's
taught
the
her.
dyer now
Mhm.
of,
I'm
of
I'm the
Miss Crescent's
ironer. I'm
crown.
the presser and the steamer.
And so where can people get your beautiful linen?
Right now, it's available at Attic Needlework in
Yeah.
Mesa, Arizona, and Tomorrow's Heirlooms in Glen Ellen, Illinois.
Perfect.
Um, there's going to come a time, this happened with Crescent Colors too, where designers want to use it, but they want it to be in shops. They don't want to put it on their pattern and then nobody can find it.
Right.
Shops. Now I have a waiting list a mile long. Back when I had the threads, people didn't want to carry the threads unless they had patterns to go with them.
Yeah.
So there was a real, probably the stretch of several months where it was just like, okay. But I finally, Rod at Hoffman helped me out. We got the designers using them, and then the shops all carried them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. I suspect by the end of the year, there will be more shops that carry Miss Crescent's Crowne. It'll be a necessity because the designers are very, very excited to use them.
As they should be. They're beautiful. So
Oh,
I
thank
think
you.
that's pretty. You can see the, can you see the
Oh,
four
yeah.
different colors?
Mm-hmm. Cup of mocha, Madeline, um, coffee cake, and cream puff.
Yes.
I must have been hungry that morning.
I love the names. You know, so Karen Lynch, she's Karen underscore A
Love Karen.
underscore Lynch, right? On Instagram. She's stitching MH 1860 by Needlework Press on your
Oh,
cream puff.
yeah.
He
When we
had it
were
last
there last week.
Saturday.
Did you see it?
It's beautiful.
Oh, I know.
It looks
Those
so.
colors look so nice on it.
Mhm.
Well, she's a beautiful stitch. Well, you guys are all. See, I've got sampler patterns and I'm gonna stitch some samplers, but I'm still back here with I love sweet
You gotta
little,
stitch what you love.
you know. Now I do
Yep.
love that Old Marie sampler. It just
Oh,
speaks to my little Catholic heart.
my,
And
mine too.
it's
I've
just
got
like,
that little Catholic
I
girl
can,
heart.
I'm sitting in the pew with my parents and everything is, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
uh yeah, samples are beautiful, and I've gone to all but the first Bristol. And the story of those orphans, and it's so fascinating to me. And I will I ever stitch a big, huge, massive sampler? Oh, Marie will probably be it. Because, like you saw with my website, I like all kinds of different little things. I really like birds and bunnies
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know who else? If you saw the latest floss tube from the attic, I think it went up yesterday.
Oh, I saw
Carolyn,
it, but I didn't watch it yet.
she stitched and it's already framed. It's an Erica Michaels. It's mom's makers of all the difference, and she used a cup of mocha. It's so
Who
pretty.
did? Jean?
Caroline, Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just saw that pop up on my on whatever in YouTube. It's not a for you page, it's whatever you're subscribed to. And I think it popped up on my Instagram too. And I'm like, oh, I'll have to watch that. But
It's really
um,
pretty.
I think you guys do floss. I mean, you're my friend, but you're a floss tuber, and I think what you do is such a beautiful thing for this industry. I don't, there's got to be stitchers sitting out there with no shop nearby. There's a Michaels. They can barely get DMC. And some people are, I don't want to say challenged, but not everybody knows how to just pop online or call a shop or whatever to order. And you guys give them so much information and so much encouragement to do what you love. If you love this, figure it out and whatever. If you guys have any questions, send me a message. I'll help you. It's obviously it was never around 20 years ago,
No,
but
no.
it's so I think it's so integral to what we do now.
Yes.
You
That
know,
community. I have met so
oh,
many people
absolutely.
through social media that I would have never met 20 years ago or when I first started stitching.
I
I just
just,
am so
I want,
grateful for it.
and so you'll release one because I don't watch very many. I'll be honest. There's probably less than 6 or 7 of them when I watch. You're one of them, obviously. And I just
Awesome.
like to
Thank
sit
you.
back and, you stitch totally different than me. You stitch these beautiful samplers, Gigi samplers, and all these things. But for me, that's like, oh, and I admire it so much. And it's so nice to see the stitching. And this is my friend Grace who's stitching this piece. And, here's what she's working on. And, I may not get to see her till next year, but here she is in my living room,
Yeah, we're
you
able to
know?
connect.
Yeah. Just like it
Yeah.
was a fluke last week. Dwayne and I were at Pacific Beach having a vacation, and I saw that post, and I'm like, "What? There's a
Hey,
shop?"
right?
Yeah, yeah. I was so excited, and when on the way home in the car, I'm like, "Can't believe that just happened."
I always
It
see
was
you in
so fun.
Arizona, and here you are in San
I
Diego.
know I didn't get to see you this time. You went to a different retreat. Looked
Yeah, I
like you
did.
had fun.
I did. I went to the Queen City Sampler Guild retreat in Cincinnati and
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Mrs. Parkman's Academy of Needlework. It
You
was,
showed me your piece the other day and had all those fancy stitches on it. I was just amazed. That was incredible.
I'm so excited to learn those. That was just so
Yeah.
much fun. And it's funny when I was watching the FlossTube from the attic, Jean was showing a Chessie and me, a newer one with the two flags. And she's like, oh, the flags, the red and the flags is all rice stitched. I'm like, oh, I know what that is now. I could do that. So I
I mean,
encourage
I've
people
done a
to
few
try.
specialty stitches. I can follow a diagram. I mean, I do know how to do that. But, like I can do a Smyrna and a Rhodes and what's the little four-sided square and
Yeah,
satin stitch, but I've never tried like queen stitches or
I
anything like
learned
that.
queen stitches. I need some more practice. They're beautiful and they're fun, but it's like anything else, you got to practice.
And I just sit over here and make X's.
I know.
And I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too. That's what I say. I make X's. Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun.
Oh, it has, Grace.
I
I think I was kind of windy with that story, but
that's what
that's the story of Crescent Colors. And now it's Classic Colorworks. You can still get, I don't know how many colors they're up to. We were up to about two, maybe less than 220 when I sold it, and now they're in the 250, something like that. They
wow.
release colors, a couple times a year, and they still have the Belle Soie. And yeah, and it's still in business and still lovely thread.
Wow.
Kind of fun though,
And
because
now the
I look
linen.
at it and it's like, that's kind of my legacy. You
It
know what I
is your
mean? Those,
legacy.
I'll go through or I'll be at the attic and it'll call for, uh, Granny Annie. And I'm like, oh, that's my mom. I named that after my mom. It's a blue. I learned along the way that you should include some descriptor of the color in the name because what color is Granny Annie? Who knows? But but it's fun. I'll see that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I named that after my
Oh,
mom.
I can't even imagine. I just
Yeah.
think that is such a wonderful success story. I just
Thank
love
you.
it. I
Thank
love
you.
it. And I'm so excited to see what you're going to do with the linen. And thank you for sending me some of it.
Oh, of
It's
course. No
beautiful.
problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
Anything else we should know about you or what you've got coming up?
Well, we just took a really nice vacation to Pacific Beach. It was much needed. The sun did come out for a few days.
Yeah,
That
we've
was
got
very
May
nice.
Gray. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, there's going to be uh there's going to be a lot of dying in the house over the next
So
however long.
you're dying in
And
your
like I
home
said,
again.
yeah, we're my kitchen sink. Um, which is fine. It's all sanitized. We hardly cook in there as it is, but all sanitized and you're not going to get, Cheeto dust or anything on your fabric. It's all very clean. But
I don't cook in my kitchen either.
much easier to go get something to eat somewhere.
I reheat and I make coffee. That's about it.
Right. Takeout and Dwayne makes coffee every morning. But I wanted to make something that I could give to Megan. So that's why I've taught her. She knows how to do everything.
So
And
is she
in
doing a lot of the dyeing now? Is
she
Megan
does
doing
most
the,
of it. Mhm,
does she?
mhm. She does most of the dyeing. I do
Yeah.
the ironing. She cuts it. I can cut like the 28 and the 32 count, but when you're getting up in the I can't see it. And she can, young eyes, and she can see it. And so she cuts it and we package it and make labels and have QuickBooks and we invoice it and send it to the shops.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have something that was hers. So Gwen and I are going to retire in, I think it's 3 years, 3 or 4 years. And at that time, I'm just going to turn it over to her.
Wow.
Here you go. And that way she'll have something that's hers
Yeah.
that
So are you
mom can
coming?
lend her name to a little bit. So
That's a tremendous gift. So are you coming out with more colors soon?
I'm thinking maybe later in the summer. I want to do something that's kind of a beigey gray, like a grayish, I think they call it.
Yeah.
And I'd like to do not obviously not white, but more of a something that's not as tan or maybe something that's got just a little grayishness to it.
Hmm.
Um, Jean, Jean was the one. You should dye fabric.
Oh,
Jean's not
she
wrong in a
was
lot of areas.
encouraging you to do this.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I said, well, specific colors, what should I do? And she said sampler colors. There's all these colors all over the place. Everybody's got this, everybody's got that. She said just basic sampler colors. She said, look at these samplers on the wall. Those are the colors you need to be dyeing.
Yeah.
We're not going to have 200 colors of linen. We'll probably
No.
you know what I mean? I don't even anticipate maybe more than 12 to 15 colors
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. There's other companies that do that. So it's not necessary for us to do it.
Yeah. That makes
Pick
sense.
something you're good at and do that.
You're doing it so well. I think my favorite is cup of mocha. Just
Really?
oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so pretty.
It just looked like a mocha.
It
Me,
does
I
look
was
like a
like, cup
mocha.
of mocha.
I love it.
My personal favorite, I think, is cream puff. But
Cream
I'll tell
puff?
you what, the two projects that I've started it on, I've used coffee cake because I've got this is I the light in here. It's really hard. That might be
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
That's Madeline, cup of mocha.
Can you hold all four of them together in your light? Because I did it and they're getting blown out.
Where
Just
is Oh, hang on a minute. I took it from here. So it'll go Madeline, cup of mocha, coffee cake, and cream.
oh,
Oh, that's actually a really good depiction.
there you
That's
go.
actually spot on right there.
Yes. They're
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, it's harder up front.
Hmm.
And the modeling, it's not too veiny. It's more
No.
puffy-ish, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's perfect.
this one got a big, I don't know how it happened, but it got a big yellow thing in it. So I put a pin in it to know not to sell it. And it's 36 count, so not just, you know what I mean? I think at some point I'm gonna have like an oopsie type thing. I'm not gonna do it, but I'll give it to one of the shops to do it and they can just sell it in smaller pieces,
People
something
will
like
buy
that.
it.
Cause yeah, yeah. Cause there's not, I mean, when you buy 56 count linen, you don't need a fat hat unless you want to stitch a lot of stuff on that hat.
No.
Because 56 count things are like this big.
Teeny. I've got one I've
Teeny.
started and I have to do it in
Oh yeah?
little, I have to do it in little, actually, I'm going to pull it back out. My goal is to stitch one thread a day on it because I really do want to at least complete one project on 56. If I try and stitch on 56 like I do any other project, my eyes just get really tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
old,
It's very tiny. It's so pretty though. And when like I
isn't
see
it?
Karen stitching on it, it's just like, oh my gosh.
I think she
I've
said that's
seen
all she bought when she was there at Bristol was
mhm. Yeah,
56
she
count.
bought 56 count. And my gift to my table mates was a piece of 46 count cream puff, just a little fat eight. And that's what she was stitching on. It was just the perfect size. She didn't have to cut into her half. I dyed him some rickrack and took that little tape measure looking ribbon and dyed that and made him a little dyed package. That was
Did
my
you
gift.
did you dye ribbon before?
That is interesting you say that. So this was, I don't know when. It all kind of comes together, but
Yeah.
someone wanted spat rickrack. And they came to me. I can't remember who it was. They came to me and I'm like, okay, well, let me try to source it. That was always my thing. If I could source what I needed to dye, then okay. But I'm not gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Sam Sarah, Patty Connor is the one that she's retired now, but she was always my next door neighbor in Nashville, and she wanted fat rickrack. So in addition to fat rickrack, that one that's about that, it's wide
Yes.
rickrack.
Yeah.
I did smaller rickrack. I did chenille. We did twill tape, and I found this beautiful cotton lace that was about that wide. And I started out with about 12 colors. Crescent colors, whatever we were already dyeing, because I just used the fiber active dyes that we used for the thread. And we got it together. I figured out how to package it. We just used little zippies. It's kind of like the packaging that Lady Dot uses now, just a
Okay.
little
Yeah.
cellophane pack. Did the pom-pom trim, the whole thing. And yeah, we
Oh,
did that until we sold the business. And it was very popular because there was nothing out there. Lady Dot didn't exist at that point
yeah.
in that capacity.
Yeah.
And so we did that and we sold a ton of it, a
Yeah.
ton of it. Anything that because you could carry that cotton floss over into a rickrack, over into a frame that was colored maybe close to the colors that were in that design. Because we didn't just do red or white. We did this like custom antique. We did pink. We did mint green. We did all these things.
Yeah.
And when you could carry that color from piece to piece,
It's
different parts
huge.
of it, it
Yeah.
was it was it was
No,
awesome. It was
I'm sure
awesome.
nobody else was doing that.
I
And
mean, they
me,
do now.
I I I want things to be complementary and match. And if I can do
I'm
that,
so ma- I am so matchy matchy. That's why this whole deal right
that's you.
here,
That's
oh
you.
my gosh.
Yeah.
This is just like I could sit and look at this all day. That is me, matchy matchy.
Yep. Me too. Like I said, I don't
Here's my
like to
little
dig
pink
when I
scissors
shop
that I
for
already have the
clothes
scissors out for this design because they have to be my pink
that
Kiwanis
match.
since it's matchy matchy.
That's right.
I'm sure everybody needed to hear that.
That's how I shop for clothes. It's got to be matchy matchy. Show it to me. Don't make me dig.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If there's something there, it's like, oh, I would have never put that together. I want that. I
Right.
want that.
I want to
I'm with
look
you,
like
girl.
that in that too.
Yeah, really, I want to look like that little
Can,
mannequin
can you make
girl.
that
But
happen?
I I don't know. And I've gotten to the point where I just don't care anymore. This is who I
Right.
am. I'm
This is
not,
me.
this is me, and I'm not going to make myself miserable to try and be something else. I've always been me. That's what I sold. That's how I sold my products. This is an extension of me. They were very personal to me, precious. I'd be
Yeah.
selling something, or I get a list from Blackbird, and they were using this, and this color, Joshua Tree, and I'd be like, oh, that's like, it's for Josh. It's very. I became friends with all of these designers, and it enriched my world so much. It made me appreciate create creative people so much more. Not that I
Yes.
didn't, but they were fascinating, because you had designers like Blackbird, you had designers like Little House, sort of similar, but Blackbird was much more asymmetrical. Diane Little House was much more symmetrical in her designs, and that they were both perfect. But you got Erica Michaels, and there's all these different styles, but they all use your threads, and it ties them all together. It was very cool.
Oh,
It was
that's,
very
I
cool.
can't even imagine the satisfaction out of that, right? I mean, they say find something that you love doing and make a living at it, and you did it.
I did. And so at the end in 2013, I was sitting at a desk. I'm taking calls from people that are unhappy. I'm filing taxes. I'm doing all the business work. I'm balancing checkbooks. I'm writing checks. I'm doing payroll. And I'm like, is this really what you wanted to do? I mean, and I'd had a great time. I had a great time when I had the business. We're starting to have fun now. It's just
Good.
very first, we just started sending in March. So this has just been a couple, 3 months maybe.
It's
Yeah.
got to be fun doing it with your daughter.
Oh, it's a blast. She's a good kid. She's 34.
No.
But she really loves it. I wasn't sure if she would. And I thought she'd take more of the back end part, like the business part and the ironing, whatever. But I showed her how to dye and she loves it.
Really?
But that's fine.
Just
It's
never
all going to
know.
be hers someday.
Right.
The big, kingdom of Miss Crescent's Crowne.
Well,
So
I can't help but wonder if it's going to grow as quickly as Crescent Color
I'm going
did.
to try. I know it sounds bad because people would be like, "Oh, I'd want to grow it huge." No, I don't want to grow it huge because as soon as it grows huge, I've got to get a warehouse. I've got to get insurance. I've got to get more employees. I've got to do all of these business things.
Right.
And then I'm a businesswoman again. Nothing
Right.
wrong with being a businesswoman. It's just
Right.
not my vocation, I think. I was a good
Just
businesswoman. I learned how to become a really good businesswoman. Just,
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's more
It was a grocery
manageable
thread. I
now,
wanted my
right
hands
now.
in the pot, dyeing thread. I didn't want to be
Right.
writing payroll, that kind
Yeah.
of
There's
stuff.
big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this time it's just her and I.
Uh-huh.
And we can keep it just her and I and add, some shops on and make the designers happy and stuff like that and get the fabric in stitchers' hands.
We
It
love
doesn't need to
that.
be as big as Crescent Colors was. Crescent Colors was massive.
Yeah.
This doesn't have to be. This can be more a little boutique kind of boutique.
I
You
like
can tell
that.
I spent time on Coronado this week in all the little boutiques.
It's a boutique linen firm,
Yes, this is a
dyeing firm.
boutique.
I
Exactly.
like it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I had so
Oh,
much
no
fun
problem,
visiting with
Grace.
you.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. You're one of my favorite people.
Likewise. All right, we're going to say goodbye, FlossTube, and thank you for watching.
Bye. Thanks for listening to everything.
Thank you. I'm looking for the place to stop recording. Here it is.